I think maybe when we're, whether you're creating the rubrics ahead of time or on the specific assignments, um, you're going to want to customize those. Now, just a word of warning: if you want to repeatedly use a similar kind of rubric, you're going to need to make versions of them. So let me give you an example. This is something I did last year, and I don't know if I'm going to continue the exact same thing. But so say like on this specific, so I used the same architecture, right? But I was assessing these specific standards, and in this situation, I was assessing these standards. So I had to create two different versions, even though the point value might shift, or the specific. I'm using the same architecture. I just need to make a copy of it and tweak the standards. I'll show you what that looks like. So here's this assignment. I did this last week, and I don't have a rubric on it. Don't tell anyone. So I obviously need to add a rubric to it. So you can see at the bottom, it says add rubric right here at the bottom. Okay. So I'm going to click add rubric. Now, here's the deal. I can either create this here, or I can go find a rubric, right? So here's where I would find that rubric again. Right now, this is where it can get kind of like it's going to pull all my old courses immediately, which can get really overwhelming. But if I have an old rubric from last year, that may be okay. But if I'm looking for the rubric that I was just creating, I would just click on the right-hand side, Manage Rubrics, okay? And so under Manage Rubrics, it's going to pull my list, right, which you can see here. Okay, so here's where the tricky part comes in. All right, so say that the rubric under Manage Rubric, I found the one I wanted, but it obviously I might have tweaked it or whatever. But I need to find the course that whether it's the current course or another course, right? That is current that I'm trying to pull from. So you can see, and maybe I'll come up with a better way, but right now you can see that all the old courses that are still underneath my account are still here. All right. So if I clicked into AP World History here, right, I can see a bunch of rubrics. All right. If I click into this AP World History, I can see a bunch of rubrics, or 70 rubrics you can see. But you can see that's the current one right here, because that test rubric is right there. So if I hit that, right, you can see that I can click at Use Rubric. So by clicking Use this rubric, it's going to pull that rubric in. You can see here. Now, obviously, I had said that I'm not going to use it for grades. All right, but I can obviously edit this still too, right? So you can see what I want to do. But you can see it says total point value, but it says 4 points right here, right? So you can see that it's not counting this in that total point value, right? Now you can see this assignment is worth 2.5 points, right? So I can obviously add multiple standards or something like that. But if I were doing this, all right, maybe I would remove points from the rubric then, all right, so that that doesn't confuse the kids, right? So this rubric I'm using to say proficient, developing, whatever, and then I'm going to do add the point value of whatever I'm going to give them. Say like, I could also maybe do the math in my head. So say like, say it's proficient. Well, a 3 out of 4, right, is 75. I'm doing 100 points, so give them a 75, right, or something like that, which really is what that is, right? If on a 4 scale, right? So however that translates to the point value that you're giving to the assignment, and then to the further extent what that translates to in a letter breakdown is up to you. But by removing the point value there, you can see that it makes it a little more clear how we're going to be using that. And the assignment is still aligned to that standard. Anyway, so you can do it that way. Remove the point, not whatever you want to do, or just don't have it count toward that total, but you can see, oh, it's by that 3 or something. So obviously you could say don't post outcome results to learning mastery gradebook. Probably not. I think you do want to keep that, but say like the kid did, the student did very poorly on it. You don't think it's representative, or you don't think this specific task is representative of the skill that you want to be measured in the gradebook for the learning mastery gradebook. That's not the gradebook of like the point gradebook. That's the learning mastery gradebook, which we'll be talking a lot more about. I would just leave that alone. Now, of course, use this rubric for assignment grading. So say if you had these aligned, so say it was these things were going to count toward the points, right? Well, you would want to make sure that this point value and this point value were the same, because then if this were 2.5 or whatever it was, right, when you clicked on the button, it would immediately do that. So you would use this for grading, right? But if you're removing points from it, then you don't have that option, right? So you just need to consider what you want to do. So now the one thing I think is actually a really cool thing to do, one thing I want to do this year a little bit, is I'll write free-form comments when assessing students. So when you do that, it shifts it to kind of more of if I remove the point, now it shifts it to a 1-point rubric, all right, which I'm a huge fan of if you're familiar with 1-point rubrics. So 1-point rubric, you're just giving just straight feedback to the student. So you're saying, hey, this assignment didn't quite meet this expectation, blah, 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 right? And you're giving straight feedback in comments under that, okay? So I think that's really great too. That's another way to roll. All right, so if I update the gradebook, right, when I go into SpeedGrader, you're going to see an opportunity to fill in this box, okay? Or if I didn't go that route and I did not do freeform, and then I update this rubric, right, you can see this here, then that's what it would be, all right? So then let's just go to SpeedGrader then and see what that looks like, all right, because that's where the magic happens here with these rubrics, is in SpeedGrader. All right, so here's the first little excerpt, right? And so you can see I can click View Rubric. Well, there it is right there. Boom, boom, boom. All right. Now remember, I didn't have it count toward their point value. So say I said proficient, right? Click that button, right? And I also have the option to, which I love, give a little comment, right? So even under without the single point, it encourages you to give feedback directly on the rubric to explain, hey, why is that proficient or exceeds proficiency or developing or non-developing, okay? The other thing I love too, for you to consider, right, is that you can also then reassign an assignment to a student when you're working and say it's not graded, all right? There's just a little button down here, reassign assignment. Now, obviously, that is not, I have to give, it requires that I give feedback. This is awesome. And obviously there would need to be no grade here. And then this reassign button would be right here, and I would reassign to them to go back on their to-do list. All right. So presumably I would have given some feedback on my rubric, right? I would have said something here, and then I would have reassigned them if I'm reassigning it to them to do it again, right? So that would be how rubrics work with SpeedGrader. Now, there's one other scenario that we're going to address right now on how to use rubrics, which is going to be in discussions. All right, now I'm going to table other ones for the future. All right. But I do want to call your attention to how to add rubrics during discussion, right? So say you're using a discussion feature in Canvas and you want to add a rubric, right? So then you just hit the 3 little dots right here, the little shish kebab in the corner of your assignment settings. right? And you can see to show rubric or add rubric, right? So in this case, right, I've already added a rubric, an ISO, right, on being effective communicators. Hey, that's an awesome one to use in the discussion, right? And I can obviously do what I want with this. And I can use this rubric when I'm reviewing their, when I'm giving their grades um, in SpeedRater. All right. So now, obviously, there are other ways to use rubrics in quizzes and using outcomes in quizzes, but we'll table that for now. I think this is already a ton. This video is already 30 minutes. All right. So I hope this was helpful. I know it was a ton, and we'll make short little ones to accompany, to send out. But this one was really to accompany our discussion today on how to add outcomes and rubrics in a meaningful way to your course and to your assignments, and how to use them in the grade book. All right, well, I hope this was helpful. Obviously, please reach out to myself, Mr. Keck, or to Mr. James. We're here to support you on how to align our teaching this year to outcomes, to standards, through Canvas, to make it just really transparent on what our grades mean and where students are at in their learning. All right, have a great one. Thank you so much.